Chapter 3, Lesson 1, Add and Subtract Decimals. You will be able to add and subtract decimals. To add decimals, line up the decimal points. Then add digits in the same place value position. Find the sum of 23.1 and 5.8. The grids are here to help you stay organized and keep everything lined up. So we have 23.1. 23 decimal point 1. And we have 5.8. That decimal point must stay lined up. 5.8. And sum means addition, so let's add. 1 plus 8 is 9. Bring down the decimal point. 3 plus 5 is 8. And 2 plus, there's nothing there, so 0 is 2. So 28.9. Letter B. Find the sum of 29.6 and 14.7. So 29.6, put the decimal point in. 14, there's the decimal point. 7. Sum means to add. 6 plus 7 is 13. Carry the 1. Put your decimal point. 9 plus 4 is 13. Plus 1 is 14. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. So the sum is 44.3. So you add the same way as you usually do. The only difference is you have to line up those decimal points. 54.70 and 21.4. So 54.70, put your decimal point, 21.4. So 21.4. Now we have a blank box over here. We would just put a placeholder of 0. Add them together. 0 and 0 is 0. 7 plus 4 is 11. Carry the 1. Put your decimal point in. 4 plus 1 is 6. And 5 plus 2 is 7. Leaving our sum is 76.10. Or you could just leave it as 76.1. Either or would be correct. Find the sum of 14.2 and 23.50. So 14.2, put your decimal point, 23.50. Again, a sum. We need a placeholder, so let's put a 0 in there. Let's add them together. 0 plus 0 is 0, 2 plus 5 is 7. Put your decimal point. 4 plus 3 is 7, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So the sum is 37.70, or simply 37.7. Find the sum of 17.3 and 33.5. You can add them without the grids. You still need to put that decimal point in. Now the 5 is right after the decimal point, so I'm going to put the 5 right after the decimal point here. And then the 33 is before it. Add them up. 8, decimal point. 10, carry the 1. 3, 4, 5. So the sum is 50.8. Find the sum of 1.34 and 2. 1.34, add the decimal point, and this is a sum. Now we have 2. I don't see a decimal point. When there's no decimal point written, it is automatically at the end. So the 2 actually goes before that decimal point, meaning our blanks underneath the 3 and the 4 are placeholders and need to be filled with zeros. Add them together. 4, 3, decimal point 3. Our sum is 3.34. Find the sum of 54.5 and 48.51. So 54.5, put your decimal point. 48 is before the decimal point, and 51 is after the decimal point. Put in your placeholder. 1, 10, carry the 1. Don't forget to bring down your decimal point. That adds to 13, carry the 1, and that adds to 10. So 103.01 is the sum. Find the sum of 134.76 and 12.398. Again, put your decimal point. It's 0.398, and the 12 is before. Add your placeholder. 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 9 is 15. 7 plus 3 plus 1 is 11. Bring down your decimal point. 4 plus 1 plus 2 is 7. 3 plus 1 is 4. And bring down your 1. So the sum is 147.158. To subtract decimals, line up the decimal points. Then, subtract the digits in the same place value position. You may need to add zeros at the end of a decimal in order to subtract more easily. We're going to do this the same way, only this time we have subtraction. So we have 5.774 minus, put your decimal point in, the 2 is before the decimal point, and then 0.371, and subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3, 7 minus 7 is 0, 7 minus 3 is 4, bring down your decimal point, and 5 minus 2 is 3, so 3.403. Find the difference of 6 and 4.78. Remember, the decimal point for 6 is after it. So 6 point, add your decimal point, 4 is beforehand, 0.78 after, and fill in those gaps with zeros. Looks like we need to do some borrowing here. Can't borrow from there, have to borrow, make this a 5. This becomes a 10, but I have to borrow, so it becomes a 9. And this becomes a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 7 is 2. Bring down the decimal point. 5 minus 4 is 1. So 1.22. Letter C. Find the difference of 23 and 4.216. Again, the decimal point is after the number when you don't see it. So 23 decimal point. And then we have 4.216. Put your decimal point. 4 is before the decimal point, and 216 is after. Which means we're going to have to fill in these gaps with zeros. It looks like we need to do some borrowing. We have to borrow all the way from the 3 to make it a 2. This becomes a 10, but I need to borrow to make it a 9. This becomes a 10, again, borrow to make it a 9, and this one becomes a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4, 9 minus 1 is 8, 9 minus 2 is 7, bring down the decimal point. Again, we can't do 2 minus 4, so we need to borrow and make this a 1. This becomes a 12. 12 minus 4 is 8, and then bring down the 1 that's left over. We have 18.78. So we subtract like normal, we just have to make sure we line up that decimal point and bring it down. Find the difference of 9.543 and 3.671. 9.543 minus, add your decimal point, 3.671. 3 minus 1 is 2. We need to borrow. We can't do 4 minus 7. So we make the 5 a 4 and the 4 a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7. Again, we need to borrow, making the 9 an 8, and this a 14. 14 minus 6 is 8. Decimal point, 8 minus 3 is 5. So 5.872. And you don't need the grid. It's there if you would like to use it, but it is not necessary. Find the difference of $50.62 and $39.81. So 50.62 minus, line up that decimal point, it's 39.81, and subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. We can't do 6 minus 8, so we need to borrow. So the 5 actually becomes a 4 to make the 0 a 10. But then we need to make the 10 a 9, so we can borrow and make the 6 a 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. Bring down your decimal point. 9 minus 9 is 0. And 4 minus 3 is 1. The difference is $10.81. Letter F. Find the difference of 14 and 9.09. 14, the decimal point is at the end. Put your decimal point, and we have 9.09, which means we need to fill in the gaps with zeros. And it also looks like we need to do some borrowing. We have to borrow all the way from the 4, which makes it a 3. The 0 becomes a 10, but we then need to borrow and make it a 9. And then the 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. 9 minus 0 is 9. Bring down the decimal point. We have to borrow again, making this 1 a 0, and the 3 a 13. 13 minus 9 is 4, and then we have 0 in front. No need to bring it down, so 4.91. Find the difference of 66.5 and 24.1. So 66.5, put in your decimal point. 24 is before the decimal point, and 1 is after. And we subtract. 5 minus 1 is 4. Bring down the decimal point. 6 minus 4 is 2. And 6 minus 2 is 4. So our answer is 42.4. Letter H. Find the difference of 52.1 and 31.47. 52.1 minus, put in your decimal point. We have 31, that's before the decimal point, and 47 is after the decimal point, which leaves a gap, so we need to put in our 0 as a placeholder. We need to borrow. We cannot do 0 minus 7, so we borrow from the 1 and make it a 0, and the 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. Again, we can't do 0 minus 4, so we need to borrow from the 2 to make it a 1, and we make that 0 into a 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. Bring down the decimal point. 1 minus 1 is 0, and 5 minus 3 is 2. So our answer is 20.63.